This Airbnb listing has 6 massive mistakes in it that will ruin its performance. Making these mistakes can cause your listing to plummet in the rankings and severely hurt your conversion rate, with mistake number 1 being the absolute worst. And I'm gonna show you exactly how to identify and fix them in order to become a top performing Airbnb host. Starting with mistake number 6, not including any variation in your first 5 photos. When a potential guest arrives on your homepage, don't make the assumption of thinking they are now committed to thoroughly browsing your entire listing.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
In fact, you'd be surprised how high the bounce rate is for people clicking off your page within just seconds of landing there. Our attention spans have gotten very short, and if people aren't immediately intrigued, then they will exit off your listing and just continue browsing Airbnb. And so just featuring 5 basic interior shots of your home in the grid of your homepage is not going to compel someone to want to view more photos. You need to hook them in so that they have to click through to see more of your photos. And getting a person to view more of your photos is the first step toward getting them to convert. And this even signals to the Airbnb algorithm that your listing is interesting, and this is one of the 2 main driving factors behind how their interest algorithm determines rankings. And the first main factor you'll see with mistake number 1. So how do you fix this? Well, the number 1 way to hook attention is with variation and contrast. This means instead of featuring 5 similar photos, try to find and capture 5 very different and unique photos that ideally show the highlights of your property, and then order them in a way that creates color contrast when displayed in the grid on your homepage. And what this does is essentially captures their focus onto your photos with the color contrast and then intrigues them with the variation that there is a lot more for them to see. And so organizing your photos this way will give you the best chance at maximizing the number of viewers who click in to view more of your photos. Now, mistake number 5 is advertising your property as a real estate listing. While you of course need to show off your home to interested guests, remember they're not there to buy the house, but rather just book a stay there. And so it's important to incorporate photos that show the experience that people can have there. This can be anything from sitting in a hot tub to playing games, or even just holding a cup of coffee while looking out at a view, as it's easier for people to imagine themselves experiencing something after seeing others do it. This is why over 95% of all advertisements, including Airbnb and VRBO, place more emphasis on showing people using a product than just the product itself. And sometimes all it takes is one good captured moment that can resonate and make the difference between someone just viewing your listing to feeling compelled to book. And a general rule of thumb when deciding which photos this should be used for is to use experiential photos for any amenities and key moments that you have to offer, and stick to empty photos for the bedrooms and bathrooms. Which leads to mistake number 4, which is using the same professional photography style as everyone else. Like I mentioned before, as Airbnb relies on an interest algorithm to rank listings, they only have so many data points to use to determine whether or not people find a listing interesting. And one of the main variables is average session length, because if people aren't spending much time browsing your listing, then Airbnb will be much less likely to push it, as they know most of their customers actually behave like window shoppers. So how do you get people to spend more time browsing your listing? Well, the trick is to keep people looking through your photos longer, and the best way to do this is to stop just showing all the same basic professional shots that every other listing is showing, like here's the kitchen, the bedroom, the patio, and instead throw in some artistic photos that are more likely to capture attention and hold their interest. These photos should be shots that create intrigue by finding unique ways to show off all the details of your property. And then scattering these artistic shots throughout your photo gallery will help to break up an otherwise generic house tour and better keep viewers engaged. No different to how many TV commercials will use some artistic shots to try and hold an audience's attention throughout an ad. And even if this only increases your average session length by 10 seconds, when ranked against hundreds of close competitors in your market, that could be the difference between placing 50th to breaking the top 10. Now, mistake number 3 is not matching your listing to your target audience. If you've read any marketing article ever, then you've probably heard people say you need to know your audience, or even how if you know your customers' needs better than they do, you'll win them every time. Well, this can actually be a key factor in converting your ideal target audience on Airbnb. For example, if you know that your key selling point is a peaceful retreat in nature, and your target audience is people looking to escape the noise of the city, then be sure to emphasize this with your photos by showing drone shots of how secluded your cabin is, experiential photos of people hiking or lounging, and artistic shots of your cabin being nestled in nature. Then focus your description on using compelling written copy for how peaceful of an escape that they can have there and why it's the perfect place to unplug and reconnect with nature. And if your listing gets associated with exactly what your target audience is looking for from their trip, then they will already start imagining having that experience while staying at your property. And all of the other listings that they are comparing, which do not speak to their needs as well, will just get dismissed and closed. Then moving to mistake number 2, this is reducing your property to just a product on Airbnb's shelf. With most markets becoming oversaturated on Airbnb, it's becoming more important to find ways to stand out from all the competition. And the number one strategy that all businesses use to do this is by creating a brand. This can not only differentiate you from all the similar properties in your area, but brands are also associated with higher quality, greater credibility, and more trust. And I cover so many different vacation rental marketing strategies in other videos like social media marketing, email marketing, direct booking websites, paid ads, and more, all of which can increase your bookings and scale your vacation rental business. But none of these strategies can be accomplished without having a brand for your property. So stop just keyword stuffing your title and give your property a brand name that can help you stand out from all the competition and allow you to build an independent business outside of just relying on Airbnb. And finally, that leaves mistake number 1, not split testing your cover photo to maximize click-through rate. This is by far the biggest mistake that I see Airbnb hosts make because it's also the easiest way to drastically boost your listing's performance. The number 1 factor that Airbnb uses to determine whether or not a listing is interesting is click-through rate. This is the percentage of people who click to view your listing when they see it come up in the search results. And this is so important because it not only governs your ranking on Airbnb, but you also can't get a single booking without getting a click first. And so you absolutely need a cover photo that stops people from scrolling and hooks them in. And the mistake most Airbnb hosts make is just picking the photo that they think looks the nicest when in fact you should be testing to see what your audience picks. Using this data is the only way to know what truly draws in guests the most, and after running countless split tests, I can tell you it's almost never the photo that you'd expect. And I go into detail on exactly which styles of cover photos perform the best for click-through rate and how you can run this test to find the highest click-through rate photo that can rank you number 1 on Airbnb. So click the video right here to watch that next.